Greg, what's your take on this? How companies behave in the public domain? And the reason that I said I'm kind of conflicted upon it is, I guess the Disney Corporation or any other can take any view they want. If I don't like the view they're taking, I could boycott them. I could, I'll only go to Universal Studios when I'm next in Orlando. I won't go to the Magic Kingdom. And people can start voting with their wallet. I know in films, quite a lot of, there's a suggestion that people are doing that. They're favouring films of a particular type, more the kind of common value sort of mythology that Stephen was responding to. But what should classical liberals make of these big corporations taking a fairly firm view on sort of politics and culture and legislation, rather than just, doing what they are supposed to do, make entertaining movies, make, great amusement parks?
Well, you're asking a classical liberal. I hesitate to speak for all of us, but I'm a free speech absolutist. You get to say what you want and let the market respond as it will. Disney has a market capitalization of about $240 billion. I can guarantee you that if I had $240 billion, you wouldn't shut me up about my politics. So I have no problem with them taking an issue. I will say, I suspect this is less a matter of some deeply ingrained corporate values on the part of Disney and more a matter of responding to internal and external stakeholders. Management has probably assumed, and I wouldn't bet against them on this, that they can do this and it's not going to cost them meaningful revenue. So, my beef is not with Disney on this. My beef, frankly, is with conservatives in the state house and in the governor's mansion in Florida, who seem, as conservatives, we've spent longer than I've been alive, and I'm 56 years old, talking about small government and government getting out of the way to allow the private sector to act. And now, in response to a private actor saying something they didn't like, it seems like the Florida government is willing to step up and potentially revoke what is one of the most innovative private sector land uses and regulatory regimes in the nation. It has a certain mob feel to it, right? Nice special district you've got there. Shame if something happened to it.
This is really interesting, just for those on this side of the pond or anywhere on the planet who haven't been following this in detail. And correct me, gents, if I've got this wrong, but there's a particular protocols around. I think it's got the wonderful name of the Reedy Creek district, which was agreed by Disney when they moved into what was basically just swampland and built Disney World, and they've essentially taken responsibility for the infrastructure, the power supplies, I know the road networks, the sewage systems, and the rest of it. But they're sort of out with the wider Florida government, and Governor DeSantis is suggesting this might be revoked. But Guy, let me put it to you. This seems like a kind of wonderful small state, low regulation, the market providing for itself stuff. Folk on our side of the ledger should be standing up for independence for Reedy Creek, right?
Well, I think there's a couple of ways of looking at it. You could look at it like that, or think of it as a giveaway to one particular company and other companies were not given that particular privilege. So on one side it could be an innovative, good policy. On the other, you could see it as corporate welfare. But I think whichever way you look at it, it's disturbing to see a governor and a state house target a particular company. I agree with Greg for its form of speech. If this was part of a wider program about, that applied to all companies, and we had some interesting new policy for some specific reason, then there might be logic to it. But targeting particular companies because of their speech does not seem a free marketer's way forward, or very stable for the business environment. But I think, Mark, you put it quite well. If people want to speak out against corporates being too woke or whatever, I've got no problem with that. I mean, free marketeers, should be, in their personal lives, free to criticize whoever they want. But as a matter of government policy, targeting speech you disagree with particular government treatment is not a great idea, especially when the folks you don't like take control of the legislature and so on, and target those who you might be thinking are just doing a great job. You could have local governments trying to compel speech out of corporations, compelling them to be woke rather than targeting them for being woke. So I think it's a dangerous path to go on. So I've said good things about Florida, but this is not an area where
I'd like to diverge from the panel on this question, just to try to offer some diversity of opinion here. I mean, my beef is with Disney on this issue, and this perspective that sort of you have the state retaliating against Disney merely for their speech really only holds water in the post-Citizens United framework, where, you know, you accept that as the law of the land and we're all happy with that. That sort of unlimited amounts of money that can be funneled into candidates and PACs and whatnot constitute fair political speech. This was not always the case. And what they are alleging that they are going to do, Disney, is that they are going to overturn this law, that they're going to make it their effort in 2022 and beyond to try to get rid of this law and probably drive out the people in office who made it happen. So they are participating in politics at a very deep level. And this seems to me like one side, being DeSantis, saying, all right, you've got a weapon. We also have one that we've been holding out against you for a long time, which is all these kickbacks and special privileges you enjoy. You want to play ball in this way? Well, we can play ball too. This is exactly what you mentioned about the divide on, you know, the classical liberal right and the libertarian movement on how to handle these issues, because we're living in a moment where the libertarian instinct to argue in favor of the corporation because their actions must obviously be driven by economics and market incentives just is no longer the case. I mean, among the many things ruptured by the rise of social media has been that the corporation's ability to discern the market and make decisions that are guided by majoritarian ethics is completely scrambled. They're not doing this for market reasons. They're doing it to respond to small ideological factions that have captured some of the highest levels of their institution, and they cannot see clearly what the market wants. But you do know that the majority of Floridians support the Parents' Rights and Education bill, even a majority of Democrats, up to 54%. The will of the people has been executed in Florida on this issue. But, you know, a couple thousand people who work within Disney don't want it to be that way. Why should that state have to respond?
Well, if you enjoyed that conversation, why not watch one of these other videos? And while you're here, remember to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way, you'll never miss out on a single IEA broadcast.